Hello, and welcome to the Joyful Mud Puddle podcast, support you can count on in your parenting journey. Today, I am so excited because I have Erin Fleming, a longtime friend, founder of We Learn Naturally, and a parenting unschooling coach at MetaMentoring. Today, Erin's going to share her approach to a new course she's offering, Unschooling Starter Course. And she's going to share how gentle parenting philosophies support unschooling families. So, Erin, tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
You know what? I knew this question was coming, and yet even hearing it, I'm like, oh, right. Now I've got to describe my life in a few sentences, and it feels so hard. So yeah, I'm a mom. My background is in education, and it's really like a broad understanding of education. So education in different contexts, different types of people, different ages. And I also have my teaching degree, and I taught for several years, kindergarten to grade 6. And I had to really think about that one. And yeah, once I had children, with my firstborn, I was really curious about what kind of environments really support kids to flourish. And I found myself learning a lot about natural learning philosophies and self-directed education. And upon returning from mat leave after my firstborn, I was really excited to try a lot of those philosophies in the classroom, and trying them in the classroom, as many as I could. I loved the results. As a classroom teacher, I was spending a lot of time, like behavior management, I think is the educational term that they use. I was spending a lot of time doing that, and just having a slightly different approach. I found myself just really connecting with the kids, and it just felt more enjoyable and more smooth. And then once I had, I guess I sort of reached my limit in what I thought my principal would be willing to do. And I started to think, okay, well, if I want to apply some other concepts, I'll probably need to either get school board approval, or I'll need to step outside of the public school environment. I think I realized pretty quickly that getting board approval was not going to happen very soon. And yeah, I think I was just really ready for a big change. And so I asked my husband if he would be willing to, for me to take a pay cut and to try something that was a little bit risky. And luckily, he's really entrepreneurial himself. He said, sure. So then I started We Learn Naturally. And We Learn Naturally in the beginning, Meaghan, you know this because you were such a big part of it in the beginning, but it really started out in the beginning as trying to understand what natural learning would look like for young children. And then we went on to develop programs like Learning in the Woods and City School and Barn School. And we had a conference that we did a couple of times. And as we started to grow and understand what natural learning would look like, we added in other pieces. So one of the things that I really enjoyed doing was parent support. So helping parents who are starting their self-directed education journey, helping parents who are already in their self-directed education journey, but just needed maybe a little bit more support around like power with strategies. So that was something that I really enjoyed. It was something I found myself looking forward to doing every week. So when coronavirus changed everything, at first I grieved, and then I guess I grieved, and then we decided, my husband and I decided, let's give this a try. It's something I really love to do. So MetaMentoring has sort of become um, unschooling coaching, parenting support, and I've helped people who are sort of familiar with the philosophy and really enjoy it. I've also been dabbling with like life changes support. So it's been really fun. I'm learning a lot. Um, I think the one major thing is I'm used to doing it in person. So it feels really strange for me to be doing it online. And yet it's also kind of cool because I've already had some people who are out of province, and that wouldn't have been possible had I stayed, a location-based offering. So I'm learning a lot and enjoying the process.
That's incredible. I know from experience that we were part of Learning in the Woods, which was a forest type program that you had, but just that whole community aspect was huge because just knowing that we weren't alone and there was so much interest in the area, and then that interest grew to people outside of the province and to the conferences that you had. So it's really like a lot of people are really interested in this approach. Have you found that?
Absolutely. I wonder if it was just sort of our timing, but Meaghan and I were sort of the two people who created the very first handbook for Learning in the Woods. And I don't know if you remember this, Meaghan, but at the time I remember looking around and there were really very few resources for us to gather information from to try to figure out, how things would work and what sort of things did we have to keep in mind. And now it's so exciting to look around, and I would say almost every major city in Ontario now has some sort of offering, and some have more than one. So yeah, it's really exciting. As someone who loves and appreciates nature and thinks that all human beings should be in nature more often, I'm especially excited to see so many kids having that as part of their fundamentals growing up. I think that's so key. So yeah, it is really exciting. I'm really glad that we got to be a part of it so early in the curve going up. And in some ways it was really exciting because we were also able to support other new programs that were starting and share information about what we had learned and what sort of things might be helpful. So yeah, it is really exciting to see so much growth in that area. And another thing that has me excited is I've also noticed that public schools are now, like within the past 2 years, they've had more outdoor initiatives. And that's really exciting to me. And to me, that also shows that when you have a public system, it is nice to have tension from the private sphere, because it shows what else is possible. And as parents experience what else is possible, they will encourage the public to take that on and give that a try. So yeah, really exciting.
So I know that you were mentioning that you've now shifted more to helping support parents through your meta mentoring and helping with like parents who are interested in unschooling their children through either school or even in their parenting. What does that look like? Or what advice do you have? Like how does this gentle parenting and unschooling, how does that work?
Yeah, so I think one of the things, so maybe I'll explain my sort of my history with it. Maybe that would be a good way to describe it. So I think that always felt, um, I always felt a pull toward gentle parenting. Um, as a classroom teacher, I really didn't like a lot of like reward punishment type stuff. It just didn't fit with my personality. I think I had also spent a lot of time learning about power structures and how to share power in different contexts. So even with kids, it wasn't really working for me. When I started to do Learning in the Woods, our first program, Carolyn Ralph, one of my friends, she said, I see what you're doing, and there's a process for that. And she shared nonviolent communication with me. And that was such a game changer for me because it took what we were trying to do, sharing power with kids, empowering them to make their own decisions while understanding the larger context that they were in. So it's not like you get to do everything you want all the time. It was more like, so these are my needs, these are your needs, how can we meet? So as we started to learn more about nonviolent communication, and we were learning about unschooling at the same time, and unschooling has that same philosophy of children making their own choices, the learner making their own choices so that they can meet their own learning needs. The two just go together so well. So I offer the parenting courses, and we've had parents with kids in public school, private school, homeschooling, unschooling. Really, it works well for parents who are already aligned with unschooling, and not unschooling, they're already aligned with gentle parenting, and they're just looking for a little bit extra support. Actually, before I go into the connection between unschooling and gentle parenting, maybe I'll take a quick moment and just explain a little bit about unschooling for people who are unfamiliar with it. Unschooling has lots of different terms. Some people call it life learning, self-directed education, sometimes it's self-directed learning, natural learning. It's really this idea that the learner is at the center of the learning process. So they decide what, or it's not just that they decide, they're expressing what their interests are. And especially when they're young, as a parent, you're more of a guide, and you can share access to opportunities and resources that are in your community. Maybe you'll find things that are online. And I think the other thing about unschooling is it's really about like living life, and that there's so many rich learning opportunities just by pursuing interests in daily life. There are some people who are unschoolers and they actually go to school. And there are other people who are unschoolers and they don't go to school at all. And they might go on to university at some point, or college, or a trade, or maybe they don't. Maybe they go on to do something entrepreneurial. The point is that everyone's path is unique to them. One of the key things about unschooling is that piece that the learner is at the center of the process. So with the learner at the center of the process, you really need to create this space so that the learner can express whatever it is they're feeling, but you want to create space for them to learn. So creating that space is really where gentle parenting comes in. I don't even know how to describe it, but a more power over style of parenting, where a parent might come up with a set of rules and a structure, and they might tell the learner what they're going to learn. It still is meeting lots of important needs, and it might fit values of certain families really well, but it doesn't work well with unschooling. Unschooling, you really need an environment where the learner can express themselves, and as the adult, you can hear whatever they want to share with openness and curiosity yourself.
Yeah.
So the gentle parenting that I'm into has a specific name, and I'm not a trainer. I'm not an MVC trainer, but I've spent many years learning and practicing nonviolent communication. And it was my dear friend Carolyn Ralph who first introduced me to compassionate communication, nonviolent communication. It was our first year at Learning in the Woods, and she was watching as all of us were trying to navigate conflict that naturally comes up between kids. And we all were gentle parents. All of the facilitators all had sort of like their own approach, but we really needed something that would unite us. And Carolyn said, I see what you're trying to do. And there's a name for it. So it was really exciting to learn that there's this whole network of people around the world who are practicing peaceful communication in this way. So I offer parenting courses that are based in compassionate communication. They were created by Inbal and yeah, they've been really popular. And I think the cool thing about those classes for me, they really center on, as a parent, your own self-awareness, your own, yeah, you know that, their own self-awareness, identifying your own feelings and needs so that you can better make choices that are in line with your values. And also as a parent, sometimes you have to bridge the gap. You know, maybe your child can't express what feelings and needs they have. So it's that power with philosophy that's part of gentle parenting that really is the key part of unschooling. I can't really think of any examples of unschoolers who have a power over approach. I know people who might dabble in self-directed learning, but yeah, that unschooling, gentle parenting connection is really strong.
Yeah. And the amazing thing is, and I've done the book study with you, which is where I was introduced to it. And now I've been writing about it on my blog, about how I met you and how it helped my family. But I also was able to take that and explain it to my sister, who said that's exactly what they do in the corporate world. So
yeah,
this form of communication is, she's like, I didn't know I had a name for that. But yeah, it's universal. And so when you learn about how to communicate with empathy, you can actually take that to any relationship, and it doesn't have to just be that parent-child relationship. And I love how you're saying that you can use just the way that you're communicating with your child in one area of your family's life, that you can take that all over the place, so into their education as well, which is why I'm a parenting and homeschooling coach, because they're so intertwined, you know, like, yeah, exactly. Like the homeschooling is so much parenting. I keep seeing that on all the Facebook groups, that in most of the homeschooling groups I'm in, they're asking parenting questions. So I love that what you offer is perfect for families who want help in all of those areas combined.
It makes so much sense, right? Because if you're at home with your kids all day, you know, you've got to figure out a way to meet everybody's needs and not be not be at each other's throats. I mean, there might be times where you're going to have conflict. In fact, there probably are going to be lots of times where you're going to have conflict. And, you know, feeling like you have the resources as a parent to navigate that in ways that still creates this environment that's open and gentle enough for learning to happen. Yeah, they absolutely go hand in hand. And I think, so this kind of goes to a big learning I had when I when I first met you, actually, you were homeschooling your oldest, and I think our boys were both 4 or something, or maybe they were even younger. It was before school started. And I think you were introducing me to the concept of homeschooling in general. And I felt really curious about it because I already had this really wonderful relationship with my kids. And the thought of like just continuing on hadn't occurred to me before, that, oh, like we can just keep going. We don't have to we don't have to do what I thought we had to do. It was really freeing. So yeah, that gentle parenting piece, that connection at the core, I think homeschoolers really understand that part. And for a lot of people, that's a real reason to homeschool, right? Because you can stay connected. Your kids can have these, potentially really awesome sibling relationships that are focused on connection. It's really heartwarming.
Especially when they actually get along. So how can we connect with you? Where are you on the internet?
Well, I have the usual social media for MetaMentoring. I think Instagram, I'm most interested in Instagram, so I spend a little bit more time there, but I'm on Facebook too. My website is metamentoring.ca, and then I'm still very much involved with We Learn Naturally, so that is also on Instagram and Facebook, and that's welearnnaturally.com. Yeah, I love meeting new people. So if anyone wants to work together, collaborate in any way, I really enjoy connecting. And thank you, Meaghan, for inviting me today. This was a lot of fun doing this with a friend.
Well, we're going to have all your connections in the show notes. And for anyone who hasn't visited the We Learn Naturally on Instagram and Facebook, you have been doing the most amazing story features on everyone. And I'm on there and you're on there. And so it's been really neat because it's sort of like those People of New York style, or is it called Humans of New York? I can't remember. I got the name. But yeah, but it's really cool because you're sharing everyone's unique homeschooling story. And there's been families who are public schooling, there's hybrid, and there's online learning and homeschooling. So if anybody listening does have a story that they want to get their story out, make sure you connect with Erin too and visit that too, because that's really cool.
Yeah, thanks for thinking of that, Meaghan. That's something else that I love hearing about, people's unique stories into alternative education or out of alternative education, because sometimes families might choose, you know what, we're gonna try public school right now, and the key is making choices that work for you, right? So whether you're going into an alternative or out of an alternative to something else, it's about meeting those needs. And if everyone is, the idea is to be inspired that there are lots of different ways for us to meet the needs that we have. And if we aren't meeting our needs, then that's also a really good conversation to be having. So yeah, I'm really passionate about that.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to definitely have you back on sometime to share more about the empathy communication and what that looks like and how parents can do that. Because I'm sure now that you've talked about it, they're curious and will want to know more about that. So you will definitely be back. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to the Joyful Mud Puddle podcast. I want to remind you all that when you listen, if you love what you're hearing, please be sure to subscribe so that you can catch all the episodes, all the guests, and also leave a review, because when you leave a review, it helps other moms, other parents be able to find the Joyful Mud Puddle podcast. And the whole goal is to support one another, to build each other up, and to create a community. And we can't create a supportive community without your help and without sharing with others. So be sure to subscribe and to leave a rating and a review. And I will be back again next week with another episode of the Joyful Mud Puddles podcast. So have a joyful day.